The whispered warning. Alina stood in the soft glow of the candlelight, her heart pounding with a mix of exhilaration and disbelief. It had just happened. Ethan had proposed. In a setting straight out of her wildest dreams, he had dropped to one knee on the rooftop of their favorite restaurant. The skyline shimmered around them, the stars twinkling as if giving their blessing. His eyes had been filled with so much love, and the diamond ring in his hand sparkled as brilliantly as her future seemed at that moment. She had said yes. Tears filled her eyes, not just from the beauty of the moment, but from the deep, overwhelming emotion that came with finally being asked that life-altering question by the man she loved. She could barely comprehend that this was her reality now. Soon, she'd be planning her wedding. She'd be walking down the aisle in a white gown. She'd become Mrs. Alina Wright, forever tethered to Ethan in front of all their family and friends. But then, in the midst of her happiness, as she admired the ring on her finger, a whisper cut through the joyous noise of her heart. "You will regret it." Alina froze, her heart skipping a beat. She quickly glanced around, but the rooftop was empty apart from Ethan and the restaurant staff preparing for the evening's closure. Her eyes flickered over a waiter passing by, but he was humming to himself, unaware of her sudden unease. The whisper had been so close, yet no one else seemed to notice. She looked at Ethan, who was still standing before her, smiling up at her, completely oblivious to the dark cloud that had just descended over her mood. She forced a smile, but something inside her shifted. Regret it? What could that mean? Who had whispered those words, and why? They continued their evening, with Ethan pouring them both champagne to celebrate. His excitement was contagious, and for a while, Alina allowed herself to be swept up in it again, but the whisper continued to echo in her mind like a warning she couldn't shake. That night, as they lay together in his apartment, she pretended to fall asleep, all the while her mind raced. Who would say something like that, she wondered. Why would they want to ruin such a special moment? In the following days, as they began telling their families and friends about the engagement, the joy surrounding the announcement was palpable. Alina's mother cried tears of happiness, and her best friend insisted they start planning immediately. But through all the excitement, Alina couldn't get the mysterious whisper out of her head. One afternoon, a week after the proposal, she met up with her childhood friend, Nicole. Nicole had known her since high school, long before Ethan had come into her life. As they sipped coffee at their favorite cafe, Nicole's expression seemed guarded, as if she was holding something back. "What's going on, Nick?" "You've barely said a word about the engagement," Alina finally asked, leaning forward. Nicole shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her gaze darting toward the window before meeting Alina's eyes. "Alina, are you sure about Ethan?" Alina frowned. "Of course I am. Why would you even ask that?" Nicole hesitated, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "I don't want to scare you, but I've heard some things. You remember how Ethan's last relationship ended, right?" Alina's stomach tightened. She had heard vague things, but Ethan had always been vague about it himself, brushing it off as a relationship that simply ran its course. Nicole sighed, lowering her voice. "He was engaged before, Alina. Did he ever tell you that?" The color drained from Alina's face. "No, he never mentioned that." Nicole nodded, as if expecting her response. "There's a reason for that. His ex-fiancée, Jessica, broke off the engagement right before the wedding. Rumor has it she found out about things Ethan had been hiding, things about his past that weren't so pleasant." Alina's mind reeled. "What kind of things?" Nicole glanced around, her voice barely above a whisper. "Abusive behavior, control issues. Jessica didn't feel safe with him anymore." Alina's heart began to race. Could this be true? Was this what the whispered warning had been about? But Ethan had never shown her that side of him. He was always caring, considerate, and sweet, at least as far as she knew. Could he be hiding something darker? She tried to push the thought away, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few days, small things about Ethan began to stand out in ways they hadn't before. His temper, which she had always dismissed as passion, seemed a little sharper. The way he sometimes insisted on knowing where she was at all times, which she once found endearing, now felt stifling. Then, one evening, as they sat together watching TV, Ethan received a phone call. He stepped out of the room to take it, something he had never done before. Curious and her anxiety now at an all-time high, Alina quietly followed him. She stopped just outside the room, straining to hear. "She doesn't know anything." Ethan's voice was low, but the edge in it was unmistakable. "I'll deal with it. You just keep your mouth shut." Alina's heart stopped. Who was he talking to? What was he hiding? When he hung up the phone and turned around, he was startled to see her standing there. "Alina, why are you sneaking around?" She felt a chill run down her spine. The man standing in front of her suddenly felt like a stranger. "Who are you talking to, Ethan?" His expression hardened, the softness she loved disappearing in an instant. "That's none of your business." Her stomach churned. She had to know. She had to ask. "Why did your last engagement end?" Ethan's eyes darkened, and for a moment she saw it. The coldness, the control, the person he had hidden from her. He stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. "Be careful what you dig up, Alina. You might not like what you find." And in that moment, she knew. The whisper had been right. When Alina accepts her boyfriend Ethan's marriage proposal, she's overwhelmed with joy, until a mysterious voice whispers, "You will regret it." As Alina tries to dismiss the unsettling warning, dark secrets about Ethan's past begin to surface. What starts as a perfect engagement quickly unravels into a chilling discovery that makes Alina question everything she thought she knew about the man she loves. Will she uncover the truth before it's too late?